WWDC, Apple's annual developer conference, just happened. And when it comes to AI, not a whole lot happened. And in particular, the much promised improvements to Siri using AI were delayed yet again. It was announced a year ago at the previous WWDC, and it still hasn't been released. What do you think of this? I know that there are a whole bunch of other things that were announced, and it would be great to get a bit of a roundup from you. But what was your overall impression of this WWDC?
Yeah, I thought the keynote, it's funny to call it a keynote because it's all pre-recorded and highly produced now. I thought it was really, really interesting. It revealed a lot about what Apple is thinking and doing these days. So the first thing I think it revealed is Apple has been holding back, has this kind of been obsessed with focus. And there's been many, many, many features that, Android users and Apple users have been demanding and begging and pleading, please just like upgrade these apps. There's all this like obvious low-hanging fruit. Can you just add these features? And it's almost like somebody in the company was holding on to the Steve Jobsian, Johnny Ivian, like less is more. We do the fewest possible essential features each release, and it's just going to be very, very carefully rolled out. And iOS and iPad and macOS, they're different operating systems, and they will remain different. And all this kind of philosophical craft principles that have held Apple back in modern day. It seems like they just like let it all go. They just let it all go, all these self-limiting beliefs. They unified the version numbers, they've unified the UI and UX, and they've just added all the things, all the features everybody wanted, including full iPad multitasking. And so the first thing I think it revealed was just this leaning into all of the stuff they've been kind of should have done days, weeks, months, years ago. I thought that was really interesting. The other thing that it revealed is actually that there was a lot of AI, but it was not Siri-based. They sort of decided, or they were forced, or they had to reckon with the idea that, okay, Siri is a piece of shit. We're way behind. It's really hard to build a Siri-like assistant using LLMs. But what we can do is we can add AI to everything else. In some ways, I think that's actually the right thing to do. In some ways, Siri has to work. What they did is they added live translation, they added call screening and hold assist, they added workout buddy, they added upgrades to visual intelligence, Genmoji and image playground stuff, which I think is just stupid trivialities. They added AI powered shortcuts, they added on-device foundation models and an SDK for their on-device foundation models, Safari enhancements, chat enhancements, like everything was touched in terms of new features, new design, and new AI capabilities. It's just that they skipped Siri, and they addressed that. They said Siri isn't meeting our high quality bar, and so yeah, it's been delayed. And you'll hear more about that later. And then they moved on, and so that's I think that's fair enough. The other thing I also noticed is that they partnered more deeply with ChatGPT. No mention of Gemini, no mention of switching models, in the settings. They also baked ChatGPT and LLMs into Spotlight. So they've baked kind of smart assist features, not conversational features, but very, very kind of machine learning accelerated features into Spotlight. Spotlight's becoming the primary surface by which I think you will interact with AI and Apple Intelligence moving forward. The other thing they did, which I thought was interesting but retro, was they rolled out liquid glass, which is basically the idea. And, if you've played with Apple TV a little bit, it's been having flavors of this. Some Apple iOS apps have had flavors of this. Certainly the Vision Pro has had flavors of this. They've created a unified design language, this animated piece of glass with this, refraction and lighting, and you can see the content underneath. And I just thought it was a bit funny because, back in the day, we had the skeuomorphism design of the old iOS. And then we got the flat, textureless design that, the modern, and nothing resembles anything in the real world. And then we're now back to textured skeuomorphic materials, in this case, glass. And if you've been following technology at all, you know that Windows did this, I don't know how long ago, a decade and a half ago with Aero and Windows 98 or something. And so, everything old is new again. It's like fashion, sometimes we go fancy, sometimes we go minimalist, sometimes we go 80s, sometimes we go 70s, sometimes we go 90s. Now we're going, it's all go full circle and we're back to skeuomorphic-like, material-like, translucent glass, which is, the next step in the loopy cycle that we're in design.
I actually wish that Amir, a friend of the pod, Amir Shavat, was on the pod today, because he actually posted about liquid glass, a screenshot of liquid glass saying, if Steve Jobs was still alive, whoever shipped this would have been fired. And, obviously there's no accounting for taste, but I'm looking at screenshots of this shit, and it is pretty bloody ugly. So, I know, Chris, you don't think much of my aesthetic taste, but it is interesting. It does, like you said, it is retro. It is an attempt to go back to the sort of Steve Jobsian design aesthetic. But not only is Steve gone, Johnny Ive's gone. We talked about that just a couple of episodes ago. And the question is, do they still have the taste to pull off something like this?
I think Apple design is really interesting and weird, and it's been like that for a while. When I first saw the iPhone triple lens setup, I thought this must be some kind of April Fool's joke. This is the most disgusting piece of shit design I've ever seen. And you know what? It grew on me. And when you look at the liquid glass stuff, I personally think it's a step backwards. I really like flat, digital, minimalist design. I love it. And you could argue that Apple has become a little too utilitarian, has lost some of the fun, and this is a little bit of the fun back and a little bit of the polish and the what have you back. Look, I don't know what Steve Jobs would have thought of it. I think if you look back in history, Steve Jobs and Johnny Ive created a lot of bubbly, cutesy crap. If you look at the old Macs, the Aqua stuff and the whatever. So, it was only in his later years at Apple did he adopt the idea of stealing everything from Braun design and German brutalism or whatever the hell that is. Look, that's my taste. I like the minimalist utilitarian design and the complete lack of material. I really quite dislike all of the shine and sheen and shimmer that's in there at first glance. But I suspect in the fullness of time, it's going to grow on me. And when you look at it in person and, maybe they'll dial down some of the dials a little bit. And then all of a sudden you'll realize, you'll feel like, hey, yeah, this is cool and I want it. So we'll see.
But here's the thing, Chris, this is my overall take on WWDC. It seems like you might disagree with me. I called it a nothing burger. It feels to me like Apple are playing small, even with this blast to the past, freaking multitasking on iPad, announcing a bunch of features that are a strict subset of what Google announced last month at I.O. And when I look at the I.O. announcements, I'm like, Google are bringing the future forward. When I see what OpenAI announced, I feel this level of excitement. And then Apple announces this stuff, and I feel like it's a bunch of tweaks and quality of life improvements and little things. And this is a $2 trillion company, and it feels like they're just kind of falling behind here. There's nothing very exciting here. There's nothing that makes you think, oh boy, I better upgrade to the next generation of Apple hardware so I have the best capabilities. It's just incrementalism, and I don't know if that's good enough.
Yeah, there have been episodes where I've really complained about Apple's lag in adopting these AI features, but I have to keep reminding myself, Apple has never been interested in being first. And I think in the last couple of cycles, they have made the mistake of trying to be on the leading edge, and they've stumbled into the AI hype cycle. And I think if I was Apple, if I was Tim Cook, I would be like, hang on a second, guys, take a giant breath. We're Apple. We don't need to be chasing Google and OpenAI and whatever. Slow down. Think about what is actually useful for the user, and we can ship this crap 2, 3, 4 cycles late. It doesn't matter. We are Apple. We ship stuff that we believe in.
I think that playbook's over, Chris. When's the last time Apple has done something exciting? In the days of Steve Jobs, sure, they didn't have the first smartphone. They didn't have the first music player. They didn't have the first tablet. They didn't have the first earbuds, but they kept announcing and launching these things that were a clearly better, reimagined version of the thing that was already there. And I cannot remember the last time Apple has done something like that.
Years later, man. How long did Microsoft have tablets? How long did Microsoft have smartphones? Apple just shipped stuff 5, 7, 10 years later.
But my point is, it's been a decade since they've shipped a new version, a reimagined version of anything.
I don't think that's true.
Since the Apple Watch, the only new type of device has been the Apple Vision Pro, which I actually think is pretty cool and might one day be a success, but sure as hell isn't today.
I don't think that's true. Apple is a lot like Porsche. When you look back a few versions, you're like, wow, this is this is actually way better than the previous version. But the changes are so deliberative and intentional and incremental. It seems like nothing happens. But a lot is happening. Apple Silicon was a revelation. The Apple AirPods, and with each incremental software update, is revelations. Hearing aids and hearing checks and like there's so much going on at each release. It just seems it's because it's so incremental. It seems like not that much. But the point I'm actually making about today's announcement or yesterday's announcement as a recording is they actually did a big catch-up release. There were many things that, yes, they were dragging behind on, and they did actually do a lot of little things that were overdue. So, multitasking and supercharging Spotlight and all this, just stuff that seems basic. You're calling it quality of life stuff. I would say it's the stuff that Apple has finally decided is important, that they've figured out the way to do it the Apple way. And the other thing, if I'm reading the tea leaves correctly, I think what may have happened is that there was an internal red alert. We've got to pause everything and ship AI stuff. And this delayed all of the stuff that got announced today is probably 1.5 or 2 cycles worth of stuff that was put on the back burner for the AI stuff. And so, I'm just thinking about how, I run product and how product teams work. And what was probably happening was they were mid-cycle, the AI thing happened, everyone had to put a big pause, think about AI for 12 to 24 months. And some of that worked out, some of it didn't, some of it shipped, some of it's delayed. And then they're like, right, polish off all that other shit. Let's get it out this time. Let's cover off for the thing that we don't have, which is Siri. And so that's if I'm reading the kind of the sequencing right, that's probably what happened as well.
All right, folks. Well, what do you think? Do you agree with me and think that Apple has lost its mojo with a bunch of incremental changes? Or are you on Team Chris? And do you think this is Apple doing its magical best? Leave your thoughts in the comments.